All right, so welcome to episode 4 of the Illuminating Rounds Scenario Archives video series.
Hello.
Yeah, with me is Martin, who's very keen as always to get talking. So Martin, what are we going to do today?
So we're going to focus on the Deluxe boards and the original Streets of Fire module that came out many years ago.
Right.
We're going to play a scenario from it. We're going to talk about which are our top 5 scenarios from that pack.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about our best rules.
Best rules, absolutely.
Best 5 rules, yeah.
And we're going to play a scenario as well. We're going to play a scenario from Streets of Fire.
Yes, Guriev's headquarters, which is by far the most popular on
That's
Raw.
right. Now, so I looked at the play-in average across Raw and the archive. Guriev's headquarters makes up over half the play-ins of all the other scenarios. So put them all combined, Guriev's headquarters has more play-ins than everything else.
And that's just because it's much more manageable size, isn't it? Some of them are
That's
very
right.
big.
There was also a scenario replay, an AAR in one of the generals, and that was by Bill Connor Fish, as he was known, and Darryl Burke. So two great players. And so I learned a little bit. I don't know if you've looked at that one.
I saw that they were there, but I didn't read them.
Okay, all right. Well,
so
one step
you're way ahead. Yeah.
So we'll talk
I do
about
think
that.
it favours the Russians, doesn't it?
It does, and so I needed all the help I could get because I'm taking the Germans today. So obviously in this unbalanced dog, not that you know anything about playing.
I did offer Dave the balance for this one, but
that's right. No,
we never play balance really.
We don't. And interestingly, they talk about this actually in the replay of Guriev's headquarters, where they say that actually giving the Russians, I appreciate that we would never think about giving the Russians a balance, but giving the Russians a balance actually changes the scenario quite a lot because it turns the final build into a fortified location. Whereas giving the Germans the balance just slows the Russians down a little bit.
They're reinforced.
That's right. So in a way, the right way to play scenarios is that if you, arguably, is if you both want to play the same side, then one of you dice roll and the other person gets the balance of the side that they unfavour. But this time we don't need to do that.
We don't need to do it. It's friendly.
Exactly. So a little bit of talk about Streets of Fire really. So it came out in the same year as Beyond Valor. So I think 86 I think was the year of release. And it really shows because to me when I was going through and we looked at the top 5 scenarios of each pack, the whole module, they're all quite similar. They're all very difficult to distinguish. I can imagine if we were just playing them as one after another, we would get a sense for how different each one is.
Perhaps, yes, But just looking at them, of course they're the same boards. There's only 4. They're it's a lot of infantry on both sides, isn't it?
The boards are similar. I mean, they're it's a green with a lot of stone
absolutely.
It's German Russians. They're all about 20 squads apiece. All ridiculously long, 20. I mean, 10 terms seems to be the minimum for some of these scenarios. I mean, we're playing.
There's only a handful with tanks and things, isn't there? I mean, there's some there. But I'm sure, as you say, once you start to play them, I'm sure they are quite differentiated, and it's always different just playing city fighting anyway, isn't it? Because you've got lots of squads, but you need the firepower to fire through the stone walls. So sometimes you're almost thinking of 3 squads as a unit almost. So
Deluxe in itself, I mean, before we jump into the specific scenarios, what's your thoughts on Deluxe and do you like it?
Okay, so I do. I mean, it's obviously a bit luxurious, especially as the eyesight gets a bit older, having this a little bit more space. It's nice to be able to see if you space counters out, and you can see what's you can see what's in that hex. You can have in close combat. You can have the Germans and the Russians in the same hex side by side. I think that's good. I quite like the rules that came with it. I quite like the way that wall advantage works in a slightly better way with it, and I like the close combat hand-to-hand rules.
And that's always a bizarre one, isn't it? Being able to declare hand-to-hand combat in melee. Is just such a change to the rule. Because we associate it with Japanese and that kind of, if the Japanese attack or an ambusher, that kind of stuff. Just to have that huge change.
And it seems, in a way, it seems odd because there's no particular reason why Deluxe boards should have that and other games not. And I suppose it's just where that rule got introduced, perhaps. And so since then we've got, scenario designers can include it in non-deluxe games, can't they, or whatever.
And it's actually it makes it a little bit more tactical, doesn't it? Because for me as the attacker, today, I'm looking for more good order squads, or more squads, I think, in total, in the victory building. There's a bit of a question now about whether or not I push hard and go in for close hand-to-hand combat because I need to knock those squads out, or is it too risky? There's a little bit of an extra tactical decision there to make.
It certainly makes it much more lethal, doesn't it?
Yeah. In terms of scenarios, then, so we talked about perhaps trying to pick out top 5 scenarios from Streets of Fire. Let's just run through what you kind of.
All right, I did. So if I start with my number 5. We only did top 5 because they were quite. It was difficult without sort of getting them all out.
Exactly. They're not different enough. I think you really have to play these ones to kind of get a feel for how different they play.
I had Storming the Factory as number 5.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Yeah, I think.
Now I liked Storming the Factory because you've got quite a lot of you've got a lot of squads. Obviously, and I think that's that's good. And they've got 3 boards. It's actually almost. Quite a decent sort of space that you got there.
And this is the one that's extendable as well, isn't it? So I think the Germans can actually extend the game out. So they're trying to eliminate as many Russians as their reinforcements.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And so you've got that weird situation where the Russians might start running away from the Germans if the Germans are controlling the building but haven't yet.
I don't think I'd realised I'd got to that point of understanding the scenario already. Yeah.
Well, I was trying to work out why would the Germans want to extend the game beyond just the obvious, and it's because the Germans have to control a building, but they've also got to and solely control the building, but they've also got to make sure there's less than a certain number of Russian squads on the map, and so it does have this ridiculousness of if the Germans control it, Russians run away in every corner and just count the clock down.
I might demote it.
Well, it
looks fun. Well, I quite like because this is a factory one, isn't it? It's a building. I quite like the idea of it's nice and clean. You've got a lot of units going head to head, trying to capture that factory. And you've got a couple of tanks. You've got 4 tanks in there as well, which are I think quite interesting in cities because they're quite vulnerable, but also they can be very good for sort of battering down the walls and things like that.
And I know, so we talked about Deluxe. Remembering that a 4-6-7 squad can almost see across the whole board. Usually you get that ridiculously long range of everything, and usually you're expecting tanks. So tanks now are really, they are just surrounded by.
Yes, absolutely, and everywhere they go, there's a degree of risk. So they could move anywhere on the board practically in one turn. They've definitely got to accept that there's some risk to moving around.
Exactly, and I think there's only a couple of hexes on this board here, B and D, that we're going to play today, which is more than a hex away from a building. So everything is just tight and. It's going to be. It does have that old school feel, guards counter-attack, that kind of a German-Russian city fight. Although I always look at this board and think I can't quite imagine Stalingrad. It's a little bit too green for my vision of what Stalingrad might have been like. But hey, it's a small complaint.
I've got very little understanding of what Stalingrad was actually like. But this is not how I would imagine any city. Really,
we've both been married. we have a sense. Okay, all right. Number 4.
Yes.
So for me, was actually called Little Stalingrad.
Yes.
So I had this up. I don't know if
I didn't have it on my list.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So for me, it's quite interesting because what happens is the Russians have got to achieve a certain number of victory points. But it's almost like a factory line behind them where you're just recycling and bringing on new troops constantly. So the Russians start with 26 squads, 527s and 447s. So 26 447s, 7 527s. And they're allowed a maximum of 26 of each type. So they can, in theory, have 52 squads. I mean, I don't think that'll happen. But just coming on kind of a piecemeal to try and push the Germans out and get a certain score of a certain numbers. It was quite interesting because I think sometimes what we fail to learn a lot in scenarios is where you take too few risks with the squads, thinking, okay, well, I'm going to lose that squad forever. But actually having an infinite replacement of them coming through, okay, I'm going to try this with the squad, this, because all you're trying to do is get to a certain number of points. You're not trying to preserve force at all. So I thought that was quite interesting. But again, I mean, 9.5 turns, 33 squads to start with.
It's huge, tanks. Isn't it? It's just huge.
It certainly gives you something to do for the afternoon.
It's very, very different to the sort of games that we get these days. So a couple of people, John O'Reilly mentioned, didn't he, on the...
he likes the oldest.
He likes these old ones, and I got to say, I don't know the games from this pack very well, but certainly sort of the... the American ones from the sort of Yanks ones and things like that. Some very good scenarios in there, and some of them are a little bit a little bit like this.
Rivers to the Reich, the MMP product that was released, which I think was some conversions from the old Squad Leader, the last few and things like that, features some really big, kind of those sort of scenarios. We'll have to revisit those at some point because they are like of the old days, big long scenarios, lots of units. All right,
proper old classics.
Yeah, okay. So number 3 for you.
So my number 3 is To the Schoolhouse.
Okay.
Now, To the Schoolhouse is just a proper big city fight.
Yep.
We've got lots of infantry.
Yeah.
This one, there's over 20 on each side.
Yep.
More like 30 on the German side. The Germans have like the sort of things you'd expect them to have in a city fight. They've got flamethrowers and demolition charges. There's the tanks. There's some very high
Tigers, yeah.
Tigers indeed. Very high modifier leader. We've got 2 -2 leaders, 2 -1 leaders. So like a very, very powerful kind of force.
Now, I'd be interested in playing this.
Yeah.
However, I'll give you fair warning.
We might need more than an evening.
We might do. But I was told it was very, very, very unbalanced. Now, we can look at the balance ratio in a minute. But my understanding is it's really in favour of the Russians. And there was a comment on a blog article I wrote a number of years ago that said that actually the Russians don't even need these 6 KV1s that come on towards the end of the game. They don't even need them to win the scenario. So that's how unbalanced the last player felt that scenario was. So it certainly looks great on paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for the number of toys and everything.
But then, if it's fun, like we were saying last week, really, if I'm the Germans and we're hammering away and I'm making progress, and at the end of the day it proves not possible to win, we might still enjoy playing it.
I'll take the win any way I can. To this.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So my number 2 was let's have a look. The final battle. So the final battle was.
That was on my list. It was on my list.
Okay, so this looked just really quite interesting. Again, sort of 30 or so squads on each side, 6 tanks, 88s, all 4 of the Streets of Fire boards here.
Yeah.
And this is the one where we have the blazes. Now you were talking at the start of the game, or we'll talk perhaps a little bit more later on about blazes and how they affect the scenarios. So this one has 4 blazes to start with. And I also what kind of made me smile about this was in the age where with the SSRs they gave you a little bit of background. So number 4, the German army was chronically plagued throughout the battlefield by fuel shortages. I mean, it's got we don't care about what but there's a little bit of flavour about what's behind the SSR, which is quite nice.
It is quite nice. Is that a good thing? Because I think it's perhaps a little bit of a shame that we've lost that. I mean, you still have the historical description at the beginning and usually the aftermath at the end, don't you?
But no explanation about what the SSR is there for.
I mean, I guess sometimes you can work it out perhaps from the explanation, but I kind of want to know. I can't. So I like it because of the narrative, because of the story. So if I know that what the wounded leader was a partisan they just grabbed hold of and he helped them out, I kind of want to know that,
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, no, absolutely. It looks a really good scenario. Again, 9.5 turns, 30 squads. I mean, I think that the Scenario Archive puts this at about 15 hours of play.
We played quicker than that, I think.
But I mean,
because that's worked out by a formula.
That's right. Yeah.
So 2.5 years' time, I'm semi-retiring.
Okay. All right.
And we'll have to put some of these things on our to-do list.
Exactly. As a
maybe before that.
You can imagine that the longest retirement party in history. The party poppers have long since died off. 17 hours later, there we are.
Excellent.
But absolutely agreed. Okay, so and number 1.
And number 1, they both got the same. Gurriev's headquarters. And really, the reason is it's got all the benefits of all the others. But it's a nice tight scenario relatively from this package. It's 7 turns. A very, very modest 17 squads for the Germans, 9 squads for the Russians.
Yep.
And I just thought that it just looked like something you could play quite quick, and it would work quite well.
Absolutely, it's classic ASL. I think this has been played nearly 200 times. In combination of that, a logged played at least 200 times. So without doubt, one of the most popular scenarios. In that time.
I mean, there's no tanks. It's a very, very, very straightforward infantry.
Yep, exactly.
Slugfest. Right, so I've set up before Dave arrived this evening, and I'm playing the Russians. The Russians are setting up. Well, they can set up anywhere on this side of this long road here. The Germans setting up within this area here. The Germans are much larger force, 17 squads against 9 squads with the Russians. I've got a couple of hip units. I'm going to put them out so you can see where they are. Now, the Germans, all they have to do is make their way over to this building here, and the winner is, at the end of 7 turns, is the side with the most squads in that building. So obviously they've got to get over there. But what makes it a little bit more difficult for them is that there's a random system from turn 2 where I could have reinforcement Russian squads coming on over here who can try and get into the building to reinforce it. So the longer the game goes on, I suppose, the more likely I am to be getting reinforcements getting into that building. So that'd be quite an interesting dynamic. It just depends how it goes with the rolls. Really, it's not guaranteed that the Russians will get any reinforcements until turn 7. On the other hand, they might have a steady stream of reinforcements from turn 2. So it's going to be interesting to see. Now, my plan, and I thought about this very, very hard. I don't really want to be on the front line because he's got such firepower. But I think I have to be, because if you look from one of these hexes that the Germans can set up in, they are literally 1, 2, 3, 4, only 5 hexes away from the victory condition building. So I can't give up that sort of opportunity to fire at them when they're trying to move through the street. Now the idea is that everything on the front line is concealed. In fact, everything is concealed apart from the units that are hit. They're effectively concealed. This machine gun here, the whole point of it is to fire down here on turn 1 and make a fire lane. That's its only real purpose there. There's another one over here. It's going to do the same down here. So we've got fire lanes going down both of the roads. There's a unit here that can fire into these hexes, put some residual in there. The units in here could potentially fire into this hex, put some residual in there. I think this unit here possibly has a line of sight to this hex as well. Now over here's the heavy machine gun, the medium machine gun, the negative modifier leader. They're in the victory condition building, and I think that they're going to be able to influence the battle. Once we get past these initial buildings, they'll be able to influence the battle by firing in different directions as the Germans are advancing. They're on level 1, so they can see over the rubble. The rubble's only sort of wall height, half height, so we can fire over that into these sorts of hexes. Now, the reason for this one being hip is I'm kind of thinking that he might be inclined, especially if this unit's fired in this direction, he might be inclined to move into this hex, the idea of advancing into there. Of course, as soon as he moves in, he's going to get a point blank 12 minus 1, 12 minus 2 potentially. Hopefully that's the plan. The other one is just simply so that he confidently darts across the road, and of course there's going to be the fire lane there that's going to make it very difficult for him. This unit here, he won't know, but it's just a 7-0 leader. I'm just trying to kind of fill out the front line, really make it difficult for them to move forward. The plan is to fall back. If these guys survive, they're almost certainly going to have to go back through this rubble. Remember, all of the woods are rubble apart from this one and any other ones in gullies. He's going to have to fall back this way. Might be able to make his way back into the game later. But these, all about falling back towards the building, getting into the gully, perhaps into these buildings. These ones obviously going back this way, trying to get back. Ideal situation, ideal scenario, I get them all back. Of course, that's unlikely. He's likely to catch me in close combat and prep fire shots and things like that. So we're going to see how much of the force we can get back. The weak point of this building, I think, is this rubble hex here, because the Germans can potentially advance through buildings with good cover right the way into the victory condition building. This direction, I think we got a little bit more kind of open ground. You know, we might be able to sort of forestall them a little bit more easily. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Another thing to watch out from the turn 1 is I've got 2 units in these hexes. Now the idea is that one unit fires, the other unit stays concealed. When he advances in, I get to get a -2 on the ambush, close combat, wipe out the stack. That's the plan. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it didn't work. The awkward thing with these stone walls is, of course, they give them great protection from the units that are actually in the building. That's why this one's kind of interesting. It's also why I want that fire lane down there. It's going to be really, really susceptible to cowering. If I have to roll 2 or 3 times for a fire lane, a very, very good chance that it will cower. But that's the game. Okay, and next you'll hear from Dave when he's done his setup. Thank you.
Okay, so here's my setup. In the scenario replay that was published in the General, Bill Connor and Darryl Burke stressed the importance of this building, and so this really will be the focus of my attention. I'm obviously very nervous about the 2 hip squads that Martin has. I'm suspicious of this hex here that is empty, and also obviously this hex here. And I can imagine that there could be someone at the back of that building as well that we're going to try to prioritise finding. The plan is going to be to be sending these guys on reconnaissance and predominantly opportunity firing for most of the big stacks. 20 firepower stacks over here in C4, in G3, and reasonable fire bases in F3 and E4 should keep the Russian heads down. But the plan is to use this as a springboard into this area and then push on again. Again, the replay stressed the importance of defending this building, so whether or not Martin has enough units in this building will be a critical point for the scenario. Other than that, this half squad here, his plan is to come this way into this hex here to force the machine gun to keep a covered arc over here if there is a unit here that is prepared to put a fire lane down. So my first moves will be here, and then looking to see what happens here, perhaps trying to get some half squads over into the building, and then opportunity firing advanced fire for anything else. Other than that, let's see what happens. So
right.
before we start,
yeah.
I thought we'd just kind of wrap up our conversation about Deluxe. A couple of things to talk about is the Deluxe vehicle cards.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have these in your collection.
No. So I got the Streets of Fire second hand, obviously, but they weren't in it. Yeah.
Well, this is interesting because this was one of the hardest things I found. The British cards were one of the hardest things to find in terms of. And I, a bit of a completionist for the official stuff. Yeah. I thought I was going to get it. So, I mean, these are the cards that, in theory, I thought were going to make my life nice and easy when playing.
And you've never used them, have you?
Never used them. Never used them. So they do a nice job of kind of giving you that feel for what the tanks do and various bits and pieces. Do you know what? If I was a nicer person, when you and I play, I'd have them out ready for you, and you could take a look.
Yeah, we're nowhere near that happening then, are we?
They just don't work. I don't. Yeah. I think it's a really nice idea. I don't know how to store them. Is one of the issues.
No. Do you get several of each type?
No, you get one card of each.
So if you had 2 IS2s, does it work?
So the A to F is for
right.
Each,
so your number of
vehicle.
vehicles, so it works. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. But yeah, they just.
I quite like how it summarises some of the information that's kind of a little bit tricky to get hold of sometimes from the rule book.
The problem with it is that you're supposed to mark here whether they're malfunctioned and things like that, but it's not so easy for your opponent to see as well. So if you've got them in front of you, you can say, okay, well, I can see that my C tank is a malfunctioned coaxial. That's great for you, but it's not great for your opponent. So you really have to mark on the board as well.
Anyway,
and you're looking at your eyes are at the board; they're not at the card.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem to do quite what.
So I've never had them. In fact, I think it's the first time I've actually held them in my hands and look at them.
Okay.
And there's the British ones there.
That's right.
I just don't feel strongly inclined to spend my time looking through to find the ones that I need. I'm just going to...
Ever needed to know whether there's a culling device on your tank? This is the type of card that you need for it.
Well, that's true. It's a way of alerting you to that, but then, of course, that would be in the vehicle notes as well.
It would be, exactly. So, something that, at least I have and, I've got it, but...
I did for a little while, in the early days, draw little pictures of tanks. And
how early? Kindergarten.
When I was about 5, right. and write their armour effects on the different sides and stuff like that, the turret armour and stuff, because I struggled a little bit to kind of like
it's incredible how just with two numbers, a shape or two,
so many
combinations of
bizarre.
Exactly that. You're right, and I think certainly for new players to learn what does the armour look like, with just two numbers and a squared turret and things like that, what actually are the values.
It's a very easy way of showing it to somebody, isn't it?
Right, exactly that, yeah.
Interesting, they've never reprinted these cards, so they obviously didn't feel there was a huge demand for them.
But even then, you still had the same numbers of armour factor on the cards. You don't have...
So it hasn't actually done a little diagram to make it easier for you.
If you were on the design team, they would have done that. And in terms of, Deluxe as well, I think one of the things we didn't really mention enough of was that although there's not a huge difference, there's a few minor rules.
Yeah.
This area of the board is really just representative of a half of a standard board, isn't it?
They are a quarter of the number of hexes of a normal board.
Right. So if you imagine having a scenario of 20 squads on each side in a half board with multi-levels and things like that, the counter clutter,
difficult, wouldn't it? Yeah.
So it does make those kind of scenarios possible.
You get that one stack fall over, don't you? And
exactly.
You never know where it all went. Yeah.
So I think that's perhaps why Streets of Fire has so many similar scenarios, because I think what they were trying to do was say, okay, well, if you want to play counter-heavy,
Stalingrad type scenarios.
And of course they only had the Germans, the Russians and the Finnish, but the Finnish don't appear at all in this set. But that's all they had available to them. So it really was consequently a bit of a shame. Now, I had a hand in the deluxe pack that Le Franctier produced, and we tried to do a little bit something with the Japanese, and I know you supplied a scenario as well around that, and I think that's where we got a little bit of traction, where I think the Japanese haven't been heavily represented in things like the deluxe scene. But I think this scenario is a real good example of what can be achieved on deluxe scale, and makes it an enjoyable scenario rather than a little bit of fiddly experience.
A little bit fiddly, It's just, I mean, really, this game is being fought over just what would amount to an eighth of a normal board. Really, that's most of what's being this scenario is taking place over, which is really fascinating. Isn't it?
That's right, exactly.
And of course, they were originally designed in part for miniatures.
That's right. Yeah. So I have some miniatures on the way.
Excellent.
Didn't arrive in time for today. I am the world's worst eBay buyer, so I will buy something because I think I know what it is, and then I read the description after I've placed the order and realise. So I have some GHQ micro armour on the way. I brought the British pack because it was cheap and it was available. It's only the paratroopers, so I don't know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get some British paratroopers. I don't think there's a scenario where we can use British paratroopers in Deluxe. But if we find one, maybe you can play with the counters and I'll play with the metal pieces. Okay. All right. Okay. Story time. I've got a little story for you.
Yeah.
So,
looking forward to this.
So I came across one of my own stories on a forum and read it. You know how like a certain period of time goes past and you read a story and you don't know what's going to happen, but you wrote it yourself. I don't know. The older we get, maybe the more this happens.
Yeah. I am actually older than you, but I'm not sure if I remember this happening to me.
It must be my rock and roll years. So I'm going to tell you the story and see, just get your reaction on this. So this is something that happened to me in a tournament up in Blackpool. So I was playing a game, and I'll tell you who I was playing against later on. And I'm playing a scenario, and I was... I think I was the Japanese against the Americans in a fairly tight city kind of fight, and it looked like I was going to win. And my opponent kind of looked at it and saw a whole load of concealed squads coming in for close combat, and looked quite defeated. And he kind of said at the end of it, "Well, you know what? There's no way I can win this. Well played." Shook hands, and I thanked him for the game. And then he just said, "Okay,
I remember this.
What's gone on?"
Yeah,
and he looked under the counters and saw it was just a leader, like a 7-0 leader or something, and he might have had I don't know, sort of 666 squad or something like that was about to beat it in close combat, and realised that actually a lot of my attack was pretty weak, and actually I didn't have an awful lot going on, and so he said, "You know what? I've got nothing else to do in the evening. Should we just play on, just see what happens?" So I said, "Sure. What am I going to do? Play ball all evening?" So we played on. And in the end, he won. So we got to the end of the scenario, and I kind of said, "Well, this is a bit strange.
Who won this?
Who won this?" And some people came over, and they asked, the player, what happened. And he said, "Actually, he said, I won, but I had to dig real deep to win." And I kind of looked at that and thought, "Wow, that's a little bit cheeky."
Yeah.
And so I posted on the forums to say, "Who's won this scenario?" Because for me, okay, regardless of the tournament scenario, how do I record that in my database? Have I won that? Has he won that? Anyway, it called a bit of a stir.
I remember it. Yeah, I remember people on GameScore replying to that. And I think the consensus was that you won it.
Well, yeah, I mean, but if you're right, I mean, and I got told off of not being man enough to stop at this point. Anyway, and then I read on because I was thinking, why would I have let someone do that to me? I can't believe that. The player was Gerard Burton, who is the funniest,
greatest guy, really nice guy. Yeah,
no malice in that guy whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's an accountant. He wouldn't know he's
he knows nothing about etiquette. Or
he's a brilliant guy. Yeah. And of course he was. So I think I joked with him that I'd hang him out to dry on the forums for this kind of joke. But it's always a tricky one to know. When do you resign and when do you play on? Because sometimes we talked a little bit about this before. When you might have a trap. And things like this, and it got me thinking about how to adjudicate tournament games. And one of the problems, because you mentioned before about how one of the issues in tournaments is how do you stop a game going so long? And I know before there's been talk about an adjudication because a draw won't be good enough for certain play. And you don't want to extend long play. But how do you adjudicate a game where, for example, there's a hip squad waiting to pounce, or there's a plan that may or may not be foiled? It's a real challenge in terms of how you would.
Do they give when games are adjudicated? Do they give the players a chance to sort of go off and explain why they think they might win? I think that's what you should do. Really, is you make a case. Well, look, I think I'm going to win because this is what I'm going to do.
And the problem with that is that, let's say, for example, in this scenario, you had a hip squad right at the back that was prepared to jump in on the last turn and potentially swing the game that I wouldn't necessarily play for. Well, does that automatically give you the win, or does that? How does?
No. So you'd have to be a very experienced player, I think, to make a reasonable call on which of the two players has the best. I think sometimes it's probably fairly obvious, maybe by near the end. Quite often we're playing and we perhaps play on to the end because we're in the middle of it, might as well finish the game. But actually, it's pretty clear. Who's got the advantage? I think we might give up if it was mathematically certain.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the trouble is with adjudicated games, there's always going to be both players think they have a chance, don't they?
Yes.
And that's the tricky point. Because it got me thinking when I was on the way up here and I saw an advert for the lottery. And I kind of thought, when I win the lottery, we'll have this kind of international ASL tournament. But then the idea of adjudicating tournaments and how do you stop? Presumably you want to say to people, you've got to go this length of time, but no longer. How do you prevent slow play? Do we introduce chess clocks? And I know, because the other thing I was going to do, we've talked about before, chess clocks in ASL. Now, I bought a chess clock. We haven't played yet with a chess clock. No. I've got an idea that I'd like to do that with you. So that's another thing. I know you're not so keen.
I'm not so keen, but I'll give it a go.
Just to see if we can increase the speed. So, for example, because neither of us are particularly slow players, there's no question about that. But just to see if we can play a bigger scenario in a time frame, almost under pressure, to see if we can, try to squeeze in more. Because I've heard that ASL wasn't supposed to be this brain, but obviously it's a difficult game. It wasn't supposed to be analysed on a turn-by-turn level as much as players play. It was not quite beer and pretzels, but certainly push counters, move. And I get the feeling that when you come up with a 15-turn scenario, as we've seen today in Streets of Fire, what do they expect people to be doing? Do they really think that people are going to be playing for
optimising every squad's movement?
15 hours of play, or is it a case of this is supposed to be a 5-hour game and you guys are just playing too slowly? So I wonder whether we've gravitated towards a very slow pace of game that is pervasive across the whole hobby.
Maybe.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, so that's all that. Let's get on with the game, shall we?
All right then.
All right, so
end of turn one.
So quite eventful. So I found both hip squads, which to me is a victory. It cost me a half squad.
Very little, really.
That was it. Was it a full squad? Did I lose a full squad as well? There was a KIA.
You lost. Gosh, I can't remember.
I think it was a full squad. I
think you've lost a full squad. Yeah. KIA over here, didn't you?
That's right. Yeah. So he jumped out into I2.
Yeah. Got an 8 -2.
That's right. Yeah. And you rolled a 3 or something, and it was.
That's right.
Was it?
Yeah.
And then you rolled 5 1s on the trot.
Not all of them were shots.
No, that's absolutely right.
I got a double one, which was obviously for a shot, which was great, and then you rolled my sniper, so I got a sniper, which was a 1.
Yep.
and then I got double one for the direction, for the sniper direction. 5 ones in a row.
Don't let facts get in the way. Five double ones, 5 ones.
Yeah.
But no, you lost a squad as well, half squad in a rally check.
Yes.
I think.
See, I'm all double six. Don't mention that. Yeah.
and you broke your machine gun as well.
Yes,
on the fire lane. So you created the fire lane from I1 down to C4.
It didn't do much really, did it? I think it might have made you a bit more cautious, but that was about it.
But what it did do was let the squads come in from J1 around.
That's right, yeah.
And so that was kind of helpful because that broke your position. They jumped into melee.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of an advantage.
I mean, I wasn't expecting the position to last, but I was hoping I might be able to pull it back. But obviously, you made sure that was going to be really difficult for me to do.
It's a very isolated position. I1.
Yeah. It was a turn 1 position. It was to, cost you, turn 1 extensive movement. That was the only thinking behind it.
You're right.
And I had we just talked about off camera a little bit the stairwells at the front of the building.
F1,
you can't go upstairs. You can't with it because you're going to be facing the full brunt of the firepower when you try and come back down.
And if you go upstairs towards the back of that building in E1 and D1, you face getting encircled very quickly.
Absolutely,
as soon as I get into those stairwell hoaxes. So it's a dangerous building for the Russians. When we're attacking from this side of the board.
So I stayed on the ground floor.
Yeah. I think I came down in C4 a little bit too quickly.
Yeah.
I'm kind of regretting that now because I think the prep fire shot into C1 would have been quite nice to keep those guys DM'd at the back there. And you disrupted the G3 stack, the kill stack there.
Really, that was the sniper, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Broke the heavy machine gun.
And in a way, it could have been worse because it was a random selection, wasn't it? The leader was in there.
Yes, yeah.
I think we haven't mentioned this at the moment, but the sniper activation 6 for the Russians
could be brutal, couldn't it?
It's
got to make
really
you nervous. I was surprised when you took a 4-up-3.
You're right, and I think it was only because I was facing back a 4 flat or 8 flat back from you guys that broke him anyway. So. But you are right. It's something to consider. And I think what that really means is I've got to favour larger fire groups rather than lots of small.
And I think that's city fighting, isn't it? That's the nature of city fighting. Yeah.
Okay, so 50-50 still.
I guess so. So. I just think it's really difficult when there's such a small distance for you to go to decide when and how to fall back. But I think I have to fall back. So I've fallen back a little bit. Whether that's far enough or not, any time will tell. Yeah.
So what's interesting is based on the series replay that was in the general, they talk about this B1 building being the critical building, and they felt that if it was strongly defended, almost with all of the forces, almost all the Russian forces, it was a very, very difficult scenario for the Germans to win.
Right. B1.
I'm sorry, D1. I'm sorry,
D1. And that's exactly what I seem to be not doing.
Well, right now, but so getting a foothold in, but it will mean that you get back relatively unscathed. I think if you start to pull back, the question is whether you will be able to pull back because
absolutely.
There's some good line of sights, isn't there, down the line here.
Absolutely,
So. Also, if I've got, I think I've got 4 broken squads right now that need rallying, but
they'll rally. They'll come back in your turn, and that's the thing about attacking with good troops is as long as they come back by your turn, you almost don't lose anything.
Exactly.
Any sort of forward momentum.
All right, but again, play nice and quickly. This is
very quick, very quick.
For 17 squads on my side, it's flying through in 10-15 minutes.
Absolutely.
No problems. All right, okay, so turn 2.
Right. Okay. So
turn 2. Lots gone on.
Yeah. Took a little bit longer to play out that turn, didn't it? Because it was quite a bit more complex.
Yep. So, big melee. 3 of your squads, or 3 of my squads against yours. 2
of mine, but equal because mine was 6 firepower and yours were 4.
Yep. You went for hand to hand, which I think is a good decision. I thought I'd play it safe and just go all against one squad. And then consequently, I lost my 3 and you lost your 1.
Just lost the 1.
So,
having said that, all I think it's done is because I think it was going against me. It was going against me very, very quickly, and all I think that's done is perhaps give me a little bit of a chance.
Yeah. So the net's kind of closing on the victory building. You didn't get your reinforcements.
Which would only have been on a 1, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so, but the difference I think will be is that my guys down in J2
can make it harder for them to get.
That's
into the
right.
building,
Yeah,
of course,
exactly. So that kind of gives me a little bit of hope there.
Yeah.
I've kind of made it to where I wanted to get to almost. The D1 building is kind of almost
yours. I made a big mistake in final firing into
the L1 guys into E1.
Yeah, and by doing that, leaving leaving it possible for you to.
And that was from the Berserk. So I had a Berserk squad
with high morale. Yeah, absolutely.
Jumped into E1.
Kind of didn't really see this. Didn't really see that.
Yeah, and then so the
yeah. Having said that, there was a unit here which did take a shot at your first move and actually KIA'd a half squad.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
But the subsequent squad and a half were able to go through. Well, they had to risk the 2 residual, but they
did. Yeah, that was a bit of a tough choice. I don't know what would you have done there. So 2 down 2s to get the guys there. Take the 2 squads or squad and a half.
I might have gone down through the gully.
Yeah, I don't.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I felt. Yeah, so the problem was getting up and then being CX in there. But you're right.
Yes, that's true.
But I think it was probably a safer option to do that. Although, it's.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. So I think the trick would have been not to fire those
holding them back,
because it was always a little bit of a.
I was happy to see you fire at the Berserkers.
Yeah.
I know it was a good shot and everything, but it's.
I mean, I could have had a nice shot against something bypassing there, couldn't I, if you'd gone that way, or tried to cross the bridge again. Yeah.
So we think I've lost about 4.5, 5 squads.
Yes,
I think you're maybe 2.5, something like that. Maybe
but they are more valuable to me, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it's quite nice to think you might be down to sort of 12 or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I've got, I think, at least 2 or 3 broken squads that may come back at this turn.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But okay, all right, so on to turn 3.
On to turn 3.
All right.
Right then, so
turn 3.
Into turn 3.
Yep.
Yeah. Hasn't, in some ways, not a lot's happened, I think.
So certainly the Germans have now contracted around the building. Actually, didn't get your reinforcements, which was a big swing.
Yeah. You solidified this because I did have a squad in there at the beginning of turn 3.
D1.
You massacred them instead of taking them prisoner.
That's right. Yeah, so I surrounded them. And, didn't take prisoners.
Yeah, kind of bought me a turn in terms of you had a lot of firepower aimed at him, but
they weren't going very much. They weren't going.
They weren't planning to go anywhere anyway.
Far. Yeah, and I figure that taking prisoners at this stage with your sniper at 6,
sniper's been active again, hasn't he? He's broken a couple of things.
Yeah. And I just feel like I can't afford a guard to get broken and then have another squad back. So just refusing surrenders and trying to simplify. So we did a quick count up. I've got, I think, 8 good order squads.
And I've got 4. Yeah.
So, so really now I think this is the turn I've got to push the advantage. Although it's not particularly easy. I think, you've got that huge stack there.
Yeah.
It might be another turn of prep fire. It might be...
it's very difficult to know, isn't it? Because in some ways, if you got a good shot against that stack, it would be more or less game over, wouldn't it? You'd be swarming around.
Yeah.
But, excuse me, short of that, it's quite defendable. It's quite a defendable building.
Yep.
But this is a weak point going through here because obviously you got the cover of the stone building as you approach. The force you had over there is kind of neutralised a little bit at the moment.
Yeah. I've not been particularly lucky with the rally attempts. Everyone's kind of slowed down a little bit.
Very poor, especially.
Back in F3. So turn 4 now coming up. Let's see what the Germans can do.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Right then, Dave. Yeah.
Okay. So
turn 4, and that was a lot more went on.
We had a 36 up 2 shot. A lot of 3s. So your building hex is now kind of your L1 hex is down to what, a squad and a fanatic.
There's 1 fanatic squad in there.
With column machine guns.
2 machine guns, the heavy and the medium, and of course he's still got the -1.
The heavy's broken though.
There's also a half squad downstairs.
Yeah, which could prove important.
And I got a whole platoon.
You did,
of guys coming in.
3 squads came in.
Not in the building yet, but they're adjacent to the building.
Yeah, you cleared out the half squad that got round back into the back of the building has now been destroyed.
There's not much to stop you getting back in, but quite handy the guys being fanatic at the top now. I think that gives them a bit of a chance. If I can repair the heavy machine gun, because of course it's malfunctioned at the moment, then I've got a 12 -1, haven't I? Which isn't a bad, and 9 morale.
Yeah, my turn obviously next, so I've got the big prep fire coming up potentially.
Exactly.
But it's a good scenario.
It is a good scenario. I kind of felt a little bit like, apart from turn 1, I felt like I've been losing the whole time, but never quite losing. And I think it's kind of quite a sign of a good scenario that you kind of feel like you're losing all the time and never quite do. That's good, isn't it?
It's on the edge, isn't it? It's fast playing.
Yeah.
It's not particularly. It's quite an interesting. It's a lot of prep firing and advanced in one move and some, big...
In some ways, it's simple. I mean, if we weren't stopping to talk to the camera, I think we'd have this done in two and a half hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very quick.
Very, surprisingly big scenario that actually comes down to 4 or 5 hexes of movement, and that's it, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so what do you think? 50-50?
No, I think you're winning this.
Do you think?
Do you think not?
Oh, I'm not sure. So you.
The only thing is
So you're really.
And I could have more, couldn't I? I could have the rest come on next turn.
Yeah.
Got a lot of firepower, haven't you?
It's one of those. If you were to put money on a side here, it's tricky. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squads I've got roughly against you, or maybe because you'll have another 2 on, so you'll have 6.
3, 4. I've got 4.5 at the moment.
And you can have 2 more next turn.
3 more.
3 more next turn.
Potentially.
Right. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So.
But I've got to have space to get them in, haven't I? I've got to be able to get them in the building.
It's a nice problem to have, isn't it? Doesn't have too much space for them. Okay. So this one's a big turn for me.
I think this is going to be the crux this turn.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So turn 5. Here we go.
All right. Right then. So we're at the end of turn 5. 2 turns to go, and.
So potentially one mistake, only one very small mistake from you, but I think we've agreed that
it was a mistake. Yeah.
The prep for was it prep fire shot from?
Yeah, it was a prep fire shot from 3 squads, 2 squads.
2 squads.
2 squads and an 8-1 leader.
Yeah.
I fired into here because
M1, yep.
Because I wanted to break up this fire group that was building up around my little group up here. And I didn't have an effect, but I should have fired at this. I'd have a much better chance of having an effect there. And then I could have sculpted the machine gun, which is what I had to do anyway, because it couldn't stay there on it.
And in great ASL fashion, the return fire back from them was
devastating. Yeah. So you got rate of fire, didn't you?
Yep.
And several morale checks, and they're down to all they got left now is 2 half squads.
2 broken half
squads. 2
broken
half squads.
So that was brutal. But you're back in the building. We think you've got 5. You've got 5 squads in the building.
5 squads in the building.
I have 2. Yeah. And I've got a prep fire shot now coming up, but and I've got presumably about 6 or 7 ready to go in as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's certainly going to be all decided now on the dice.
There's going to be a lot of dice. Yeah.
And I think if the criticism of this gun is that it's very swingy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it is close combat, hand to hand melee. It's going to swing one way or the other.
Big fire groups that if they break, it changes the nature of the game completely.
Yes,
but it seems to have swung a few times, which is a positive thing. The sniper's been pretty active from both sides.
So my sniper's hit your sniper twice.
It has. That's true. It has. So your sniper has only impacted really in the sense that he's reduced my sniper from 6 to 4, which is an
good,
impact, which is a big impact. Yeah,
absolutely. It is, and I think you just lost your heavy machine gun to a malfunction.
Yeah.
So the repair attempt there has not gone well.
Yeah.
But it feels a little bit on my side at the moment. But I think I need a decent prep fire to cement it.
Yeah, you need to. You've still got. I mean, if you try to rush now, you've still got to move into very adjacent to 3, 6, 2, 8s, haven't you? Which is a lot of firepower.
Yeah. You having the last turn probably doesn't make a huge difference except for the last prep fire.
Well, but I've got much left by then.
Yeah, but the last prep fire might have an effect.
Yeah,
presumably if we're fighting in there. So you might have the last chance to get a decisive fire shot in there.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to come down to the last turn. It's close. It feels like it's in the balance one way or the other. Okay. Good stuff. All right, so turn 6.
Right then.
Okay.
All right. So end of turn 6.
End of turn 6.
And I have conceded.
You've conceded,
I've conceded.
It was a tough fought game at the end there.
Yeah.
Plenty of squads and the melees didn't go your way.
No.
I got some lucky shots in the. There was a lot of shots, but
nothing
with you. I think you had a 36 up 2, and I shrugged off a 3 check.
I think so. Yeah. So. So in the end, you kind of like rushed into the building. You had more squads in the building. Didn't buy me than that phase, but I still had that big fire group, 30. Yeah. Well, so it was 3, 6, 2, 8s, wasn't it? So it's like 36 firing adjacent. But they didn't do any damage to the people adjacent. You got them into close combat.
And you had the encircled squads.
Yes, that's right.
So we realised that you were encircled in the top level building.
That's right, because my brokers went upstairs. They had a chance of rallying, but of course we realised they were encircled. I think
That's right, through the melee underneath
exactly, the melee that was underneath them.
Yeah.
So I'm left with one squad.
Yeah, against
You've got about
7,
at least 6, 7 in there, yeah. So I find it difficult to see how I'm going to get you out.
Yeah, so brilliant scenario. I would replay it at a heartbeat. I think it would be a great one to sort of, over a few weeks to play 2, 3, 4 times and kind of really try and finesse.
And really, really quick playing. Yeah, really straightforward to play.
Really good. Okay, excellent. So great scenarios and we had a good time.
Yes.
Maybe next week something from Doom Battalions.
That's what we're thinking, isn't it? Yeah, we'll have a little look through that. Something very close. I don't think I've ever played anything from Doom Battalions.
And we're in negotiations with some people about some potential sponsorship.
Absolutely,
which would be great. So that would be a case for us to be able to highlight some products. So hopefully that's something we can look at doing. If you have suggestions for anything we can play, we'd happily take that and get in early whilst we still can. Nearly 120 subscribers, which is
it's getting frenetic.
Yeah. It's great.
So.
So we're having a good time. Please do like, subscribe, pass us on if you know anybody who publishes ASL stuff. Then get them to give us a shout. We'd love to highlight them.
Recommend us to your friends.
Yeah, and family.
Yeah.
Pass the word. Until next week.
Yeah.
We'll see you then. Thanks a lot.
Bye.